Welcome back to another episode of Square State Sandlot. I'm Kyle Gilmore. I got Bill Montoya here with me. We have a few things, I guess, across all the major leagues. We'll kind of work our way through it, but before we got too far into anything else, I wanted to make sure that we took a second to talk about Bill Russell passing away at the age of 88. I don't think there's enough that can be said about him as far as a player, as a coach, as a civil rights activist. He's been involved in so many things, but I wanted to mention one thing. I always laugh because social media is constantly blowing up the Michael Jordan, LeBron, who's better competition. And I always laugh because they use trophies as kind of the standard, whether it be, finals MVPs, things like that. That's what they're comparing. And the one thing you don't usually see, and then obviously with him passing, they've been putting him up left and right. But if you compare those two to Bill Russell, it's not even a competition. So if that's your argument, I guess, is accolades and whatnot, he was such an impactful player. I mean, he's up there. He's top. I don't know anyone who wouldn't put him in top 5 of all time. So I don't know. For me, a lot of talk has been going around about retiring his number, which I am 100% behind. I hope it happens. But really, in the end, I just, tons of respect to a wonderful career. And from everything you ever hear, just a wonderful human being. So it's sad to lose him, but I guess he was a treasure for a long time.
For sure. And I think he had, 11 championship rings, 10, 11, something like that. So winningest NBA player of all time, a lot of accolades, like you said. And I mean, obviously the era was quite a bit different. So, but I did see a clip of him today, and it was him grabbing a rebound and then going coast to coast and literally jumping over some short white dude on the court. So, and slamming it home. So very impressive athleticism, obviously, how that plays out. And that's the thing that I hate is when you try to compare era to era, it's just completely different. Basketball players are different.
It's very hard to.
Basketball style is different. So I think he deserves all the respect and accolades that he is due. And I mean, obviously, the way that he dominated the league back then, that says enough.
I agree. It's, I don't know, one of the greats.
What did you have about your Orlando Magic?
Just a note, I guess. I've made the conscious decision to reinvest in Orlando. They're the only basketball team I've ever really followed. Like I've talked before, Penny and Shaq days. So mostly it's because of the pod. I want to get a little more involved NBA side. So I'm not just pretending like I know what I'm talking about. I already do that enough with other things. So I'm going to try to get to know the team a little better, get reinvested, and try to enjoy some basketball, I guess.
While we were dealing with the backyard, those of you that are friends with me probably saw some of those posts about our backyard flooding a couple times in the past 5 days. Yeah. But while I was doing that and shoveling out in the rain, I was also listening to the Pivot podcast, and one of the episodes that popped up was Shaquille O'Neal. And it was crazy hearing about how him and Penny kind of had a falling out where Shaq basically wanted to be the dude. And then when it came time for contract extension, he basically had told the owner, I'm not going to. They didn't offer him what he wanted, so he went to L.A. And, that was very interesting to me, and I'm sure you got to see that play out in live action. But
it was heartbreaking.
He said that was one of the things that he looks back on and wishes he had done different. Not that he would change anything in his career, but he said that he and Penny could have been a true force in the league had they given it the opportunity to do so.
And I really, if you're going to talk about what that team could have been, you really need to look at who else they had on that team at the time. Nick Anderson, Horace Grant, Tracy, they had a crazy team. And they were knocking on the door of Bulls-esque domination at one point in time, and then it all went to shit. I'm not saying they were going to be Shaq left, Penny's knees started going. I mean, it just was never the same. But, you can always what if, I guess. But I will say that was probably one of the first sports moments that, like, truly broke my heart, is when that Magic team kind of dissipated. I was young, 9, 10, something like that. And it was rough. But I'm gonna try to get back into it and see what happens. I know they got starting to build, a young stable of talent. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, they definitely have a lot of young talent. It's exciting to see what they do with that. But segueing into another team that may be breaking up a little bit, and that is the Golden State Warriors. Obviously, they're coming off that championship win, and they've got quite a few guys that they need to extend in the near future, and that is Draymond's coming up on his extension. Wiggins is coming up on his extension. Jordan Poole's coming up on his extension. And Lacob basically said it's going to be very difficult, the owner, for them to keep all of those guys at the same time. He's obviously complained. He actually got fined $500,000 for complaining about how the luxury tax penalizes teams for drafting well. And we've talked about that on here, so it's nothing new. But now is the time where it's coming to the brass tacks, where he's going to actually have to hand out these extensions. And Draymond's not looking for a hometown discount. He basically said, I can't remember the exact wording, but something about he better back up the Brinks truck, or I'm going to take my talents over and win championships with LeBron is paraphrasing.
The statement before that, the sentence before that, is what gets me. And his words were, I brought 4 championships to this city. And I'm not going to take away that he had an impact on that team. I'm not going to take that away. He's a wonderful defender. I'm not taking away where his talents lie, but are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, I can't. Like,
I guess I didn't even want
Clay and
to.
Steph.
I didn't even want to add any significance to that because of how laughable it was to me. I mean, obviously, like you said, he contributed on the defensive end. He does a great job of being that point forward. But you telling me we couldn't have any other defender on there?
I guess the reason it killed me to hear that statement is the one person on that team that maybe, and I say maybe because it's a team sport, that maybe could make that argument, obviously, is Steph. And you would never hear him say that.
Not a chance.
And that is the difference between Draymond Green and Steph Curry.
Well, and the tough thing is, Steph loves Draymond, and he is completely in his court. And that's the tough part, is they're either going to have to. I mean, Steph already said he wants him there for the rest of his career with him. So that's going to be a tough thing for ownership and the front office to make that decision on whether they want to extend him or if they want to send him on his way. And quite honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see him headed elsewhere shortly, because what he brings to the table now is not what he brought to the table during those 4 championships. Obviously, the latest one, he had 3 rough games right at the beginning of the series, and then he had three pretty decent games. So I would say at this point in his career, he's not deserving of a max contract, and that's why I wouldn't be surprised to see him moved. Would they miss him? Probably, but at the same time, you got to look towards the future and those guys that you're drafting and see what impact that they can have on your roster. So if he wants a full 4-year guaranteed max extension, I would say it's probably time to move on from Draymond. So
I love it.
I know you love that. But it hurts me to say. Like I said, I do like Draymond. I don't like how over the top he can be at times, but
well, that's what sucks. That's what sucks for me is I actually really like role players. There's people that still downplay like Rodman on that 90s Bulls team. That is the definition of a role player. But to put up 40 rebounds over 2 games or whatever his max was during that time, there's a reason to have, and don't get me wrong, Rodman was a whole nother, thing to deal with. But I'm not saying he was obviously a perfect situation, disappearing to Vegas and whatnot. But I'm just saying, like, I'm always, 6th man, off the bench role players. I love all those type players because that's how you win. Is you got to have some depth. But I hate this kind of talk.
Yeah. I can definitely do without the. He better back up that Brinks truck because if he doesn't, I'm gone. But
or I'll be playing with LeBron.
Well, and really, maybe that will happen, but that roster's not ready to win right now, and I think everyone knows
I hope
that.
He goes there.
Yeah, that will be, maybe he can get paid, but he's not going to enjoy his time losing, 60 games.
Nope.
Obviously, they're not going to lose 60, but they weren't far off last season. So
we can hope.
Yeah. All right. So we had the MLB trade deadline. It just happened a couple days ago on Tuesday. A lot of movement. This was probably one of the more active trade deadlines I've seen in a while, and we won't get to all the deals. We're just going to talk the headliners, so to speak, and how they impacted our teams. But I think the main one that everyone was kind of shocked by is the Juan Soto and Josh Bell from the Gnats to the Padres. And, this trade made me smile from ear to ear because even if the Padres don't extend Juan Soto long term, they get 2.5 years of him under team control for probably $65 million ish after arbitration and all that. So Soto is going to have a huge impact on that team. And when you have Josh Bell on top of that, plus Fernando Tatis is getting healthy again. You got Manny Machado. As much as I don't like Manny Machado, he's a great baseball player. So
Cronenworth, that team is stacked.
Yeah, no, it's murderous row going through the middle of that lineup. And, I would say they have probably the best offensive lineup in baseball at this point. Pitching has been up and down, but Bob Melvin, it looks like he made a hell of a move to go from the A's to the Padres in this past offseason. I'm so excited for him. I'm so excited for Mania. So I really hope they can take the championship home. And I think this was kind of a wake-up call for the Dodgers. For so long, the Padres have been, half in.
Second fiddle.
Yeah, they want to compete, but at the same time, they can't spend where the Dodgers have been. So I think they're going all in, and I love to see this, especially with Bo Mel at the helm. So I'm excited to see what happens here.
I knew you were going to say that, and I was laughing because it's kind of us converging on one team. They're who I want to take it all this year, for a couple reasons. I like Musgrove. Obviously, his ties to Pittsburgh. He's pitching really well. He just got paid. Oh, yeah.
5 years, $100 million. Not bad.
I'm really hoping he does well, and then I am so happy for Josh Bell for the same reason. Yep. Obviously, ties to Pittsburgh. Yep. I would like for these players to play better, or I wish these great things were happening at home. But for him to go from a team like the Nationals, where he's just playing to play baseball, they weren't competitive. I cannot be happier for him. He'll step right in. He's going to take Hosmer's spot. So. I'm really excited for Josh Bell. Well, and you know what? He's caught some heat for this, but this is why I love these contracts, because there's some power to the player. He exercised his contract. I don't think what he did was wrong in any way or capacity. That's why you put that clause, is for your own protection, because why would he want to go to the Gnats where he's probably going to squander the remainder of his contract?
Yeah, and what we're talking about is originally Eric Hosmer was included in this Juan Soto deal and Josh Bell from the Gnats. He was supposed to be going back to the Gnats, and he has a no trade clause in his contract. I think there was, I don't remember how many teams he had on his no trade list, but
I think it was 3 or something like that.
Yeah. So obviously it's not a full no trade clause where they can say, no, I don't want to go. But the Gnats were on his list of teams he wouldn't go to. So they essentially had to negotiate with Eric Hosmer if they wanted to get him to waive that right. They did some negotiation, but they also, everyone was waiting with bated breath because they thought this was going to cancel the whole deal if Hosmer said no. But then news came out and they said, well, we've got a deal in place with or without Hosmer. So he's coming here. It's just a matter of the compensation. So Hosmer ends up getting dealt to Boston after he rejected the Nats trade. And like you said, I don't blame him at all. I wouldn't want to go to what's likely going to be the worst team in baseball. He's getting paid well above his talent level. And that contract with the no trade was really a horrible contract at the time. I can't believe that they signed him to it, but it worked out.
That Nats team has been gutted in the last few years. I mean, pitching staff now, anything, behind a bat.
Yeah, it's crazy how much talent they had on that team, the championship team, and now none of them are left really. And I mean, you had Scherzer, you had Soto, you had, I can't even think of all the names. Howie Kendrick, he left, he retired, which actually my brother-in-law is working on his truck there in Arizona. So I'm excited to see how that thing turns out. But he was also a thorn in my side because he was with the Angels forever. And every time he'd play against the A's, he'd hit like 400. So didn't like playing against him, but he was a hell of a ball player. So that was pretty cool when my brother-in-law told me that he was working on his truck. But
that's awesome.
Back to baseball. Another trade that happened, and it was revolving around my team, and that is the A's. Frankie Montas and Lou Trevino got sent to the Yankees for their 5th, 10th, 20th, and 21st ranked prospects. At first, there were some rumors swirling around that it was going to be the Yankees where Frankie went to. They were talking about their number 3 ranked prospect, which was a shortstop and one of the very prized prospects in all of baseball. So I was getting fired up for that. And then I saw this compensation and I was like, ooh, that's not great. 2 of them are starters. One projects as a reliever, but I think they're going to try him as a starter. So they got a lefty and 2 righties. And then they got a second baseman that apparently has plus hitting skills. I don't have the names all written down here. It's not really important because outside of the number 5, he's probably none of them are going to be hitting the majors until probably next season at the earliest. So decent overall package coming back, but I was kind of surprised to see them. And I don't know why I'm surprised because they always trade for pitching and take guys that aren't ranked as high and turn them into phenoms or whatever. And then they look really smart. Do it again. Yeah. So I think that's why. And I shouldn't be shocked that they went basically all pitching in the return, but going to miss Frankie for sure. Lou, I think, is personally responsible for about 6 blown saves this season. So just throwing him in that package kind of made me happy because I don't have to, have a heart attack every time I see him roll out there on the field. But obviously I'll be happy to see them succeed, but I really don't want to see the Yankees win. So it's catch-22 for me. But what did you have in Bucks made any trades? I didn't even pay much attention.
So we already talked about the Vogelback trade.
Yep.
We got a pitcher reliever, and he actually pitched this week, did okay. But our big trade, the big one that was expected, was Jose Quintana kind of reinvigorated his career this year with us, which I'm happy for him. Him and Chris Stratton both went to the Cards. The Chris Stratton one, he's kind of like Lou for us. Last season, he was really strong for us. This year, I don't know what was the problem, but he would just, we'd be in really good position to win games, even being up a couple runs. And it just seemed like every time he came in, it, went south. So I was happy to see us get something. So basically it was a 2-for-2 trade. So we traded Jose and Chris, and we got a right-handed pitcher from St. Louis, Johan Oviedo. I think we sent him, he might've been AA. It might be AAA, but he'll be down there for a little bit, till they get a good look at him. And I'm sure he'll, especially with the way, trade deadline, and now we're going to be bringing up younger guys, I'm sure he'll get a chance this year. But the one I'm actually really excited about is number 10 overall prospect on MLB Pipeline. He's a third baseman, first baseman. Obviously, we're going to be using him at first base if he gets called up. But Malcolm Nunez, sorry, I struggled to get that out. But he plays more third base, but we're going to end up putting him at first base. Because we don't need any more first base debacles. I don't want to talk about it. That was a year ago. I guess I can let it go. But Bill likes to tag me in that video every time it comes up against the Cubs. But
hey.
So a number 10 prospect.
It was just the 1 year anniversary. That's the only reason I tagged you in it.
I know. I try to forget it ever happened, but so we're still collecting prospects. I don't know. Next year is going to be the telltale year, I think. I just really hope they bring up the young guys again and let them play. We still have some veterans we didn't move. So, but I mean, they designated Yoshi Tsutsugo, which I'm happy because he was struggling. He was batting like 170. I don't know why it took this long, but so I think they're starting to finally phase some people out, get these young guys up there, and that's what we should be doing. And we'll see what happens. And I'll close it off with, we just finished a 3-game sweep of the Brewers today, which is wonderful. We went extra innings in one of them. Yesterday's game, Brian Reynolds hit he led off the 9th inning, bottom of the 9th, and walk-off homer, first of his career. So that was exciting.
O'Neill Cruz hit a piss missile literally out of the damn stadium. Oof.
If he ever really cuts down the strikeouts, he's going to be very, very dangerous. He's amazing defensively. Obviously, the guy can throw. I mean, it's why I love Michael Chavis at first base, because that dude does the splits literally every time he goes to catch a ball, which is wonderful for beating a base runner, but also sometimes O'Neill Cruz is a little wide with them 110-mile-per-hour throws. That's a whole nother conversation. But, he's one of those guys that, he struck out a little bit, but about the time you look away and aren't watching one of his at-bats, he just demolishes the thing.
But that's why I don't think he'll ever cut down a ton on the strikeouts, because I mean, obviously he's big, but he's not thick, and that's where if he's generating that much power, you're going to have some swing and miss there. So I don't think he'll be as bad as, Joey Gallo, which we'll talk about in just a second. But he does have some swing and miss there, and obviously hitting those balls 110 off the bat, it's pretty impressive. So
and really at this point, the biggest impact for me is just he brings he's led this youth movement, so to speak, this season. And he just brings kind of a fire and excitement to the team and the ballpark that's been missing, for a handful of seasons. So even just that I'll take, being, down a couple runs in the 7th inning, there's still that hope that a spark's going to hit, because it's happened, and it's not something that we've had, consistently. So I don't know. It was a quieter trade deadline for me than I thought it would be.
Oh yeah.
But I think they did well.
I was fully expecting the A's to be minus Andrews, Laureano, Murphy. Like, I thought we were going to be completely gutted. And I think the July that we had probably dissuaded the front office from trading everyone, because I've been saying this all season. I don't think we're as bad as we've been playing. I don't think we are. I think we're a lot closer to competing than what we've seen so far this season. Obviously, when you get rid of those core guys, the rest of the team is kind of down, and I think that played into it, especially towards the start of the season. But I mean, hanging on to Laureano, I think that's probably just a temporary thing, as well as Murphy. I don't think they were getting offers that they liked, and they'll probably move them this offseason when they've got all the other teams in the mix rather than just the ones that are in the playoff mix. So I think they're still going to be on the move, but I also am very encouraged by what I've seen from Jonah Bride, what I've seen from Nick Allen, a lot of our younger pitchers, even Aller. I didn't think he was going to be a major league pitcher ever after his first, I think, 8 starts. I mean, I think it was his first 4 starts, and then they moved him to reliever because the first 4 starts were that bad. But I've been very encouraged by this team. I mean, still got Chad Pinder, so there's definitely a mix of veterans plus a lot of young guys getting playing time. Piscotty's still there. I don't think he'll be there much longer either. So it's going to be interesting to see, especially around September call-ups when they bring the rosters up to 28. I think that's when you and I will both see some of the guys that play more into the future versus the now. And I'm excited for you guys. I'm excited for us, especially the start of this season, man. I was even contemplating watching the games night to night. So it was bad.
It was a rough stretch. All I'm saying, 2024 World Series, A's,
Pirates,
Buccos. You heard it here first.
Right in the books. And then just a couple notes on the Dodgers. We did mention Joey Gallo got traded from the Yankees to the Dodgers. He obviously struggled in New York. I think they thought he was going to be a major hit there just because they have that Little League dimension ballpark in right field. They thought pop-ups for him were going to be home runs every time. I don't think they foresaw as many strikeouts as he had, even though that's been his whole big league career. So he's excited to get a new start there in LA, and I don't think it's going to go much better. I mean, like I said, I watched him on the Rangers playing the A's 19 times this season, and that hit and miss has always been there. Sure, he'll get into one every, 10 games or something like that, but it's not a lot of, I mean, he's basically the true 3 outcomes king. Either he walks, he strikes out, or he hits a home run, and that's not great for baseball, at least in my estimation. So, and then just one other note on the Dodgers, we made a mention of Bill Russell at the top, and Vin Scully passed away yesterday, and he is one of the ultimate baseball guys. I mean, he called games for, I think it was 67 years or something like that for the Dodgers.
It's the longest
a true icon. I don't know what else to say about him. I mean, he called one of my least favorite moments in MLB history, and that was, Jesus, his name is slipping me right now, but, oh my God, why can't I remember? Kurt Gibson.
While you think about
not
this,
Kurt Gibson. Yeah, you look.
I just the thing for me that stood out the most about him is just how far his career, like the span of his career. They had pictures of him, as a young man with Jackie Robinson. He literally, he watched the MLB turn into what it is. I mean, he's been there for it, literally play by play.
Yep.
And I mean, they had the breakdown of how many World Series, how many All-Star games he called. I mean, the numbers are unreal. He's, I mean, for all intents and purposes, probably the best resume of any announcer across all sports. I don't know that anybody is. I know his 67 years is, the record, I guess, for a stretch, but his numbers are just crazy, and he was, beloved. Everyone loved him. And like I said, the old pictures are what really threw me, because he got to see, literally the game change from like Jackie Robinson to, what it is today. I can only imagine. I mean, I think he stopped in 2016. So, I mean, it's not like he this happened as he was calling games. But I can only imagine for, Dodger fans, that's going to be a big hole. And for the team, I mean, that's going to be a big hole. So,
yeah, I mean,
sad
uncle
stuff,
that watches us quite a bit, and he comments on our stuff all the time. He is a huge Dodgers fan. He's been in LA his whole life. And, I mean, when he found out of the passing, I mean, all he could do is just be sad because, I mean, his entire life watching Dodgers baseball growing up, I mean, it's been
I can only imagine.
Games, so it's definitely a huge hole in the heart of all baseball fans, other than probably the most recent. I think he retired 6 years ago, but the moment I was speaking of is Kirk Gibson hitting the walk-off home run against Eckersley in the 1988 World Series over my A's. I was just a baby and
a wee lad.
Yeah, I think I was 3 months old, something like that, and this happened. But I mean, you can hear Vin. His call of that was iconic. So I can't even hate that he called that game because of how well he did with that. It was just a magnificent call, and I get to hear it, World Series time every year. So gonna miss Vin, and he did a great job calling those games forever. And like I said, I know all Dodgers fans are hurting because of his loss. So, but we'll move on to NFL. And what do you have for NFL today?
I'm not gonna dive into this. I think we've talked about it enough. But I just wanted to talk about the DeShaun Watson situation just for a little bit. I guess an update for anybody who hasn't been following it as closely as, say, I have. Long story short, his corner asked for a 6-game suspension. The NFL countered with a 12-game suspension, or I should say the NFL's team. So the ruling ended up being 6 games. Not to say that's what the suspension will be. It's now in the NFL's hands, which Roger Goodell has assigned someone. I cannot remember his name right now, out of New Jersey, but he's going to hear the case basically. And from what I understand, they want an indefinite suspension, like we talked about on the show previously. That gives them wiggle room, I'm sure, to gauge, basically how we, the people, react to this.
Yeah.
It makes me feel a little bit better because I was nervous that they weren't going to do the right thing. And I think they're at least trying to do the right thing. We'll see what happens. I know the player union threatened to sue if they do go for more than 6 games, which I'm usually, pro-union and stuff. So it's hard for me to badmouth it. But at the same time, I'm like, come on, man. This isn't like trying to get somebody money. This is a big deal. So I just hope the NFL handles it correctly. Like I said, I'm not going to beat a dead horse here, but that's where we're at. We're waiting on the NFL basically to decide what they're going to hand out as an actual punishment based off their code of conduct as opposed to what the ruling was.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. I don't know if you have any thoughts.
Yeah, I'll just add a couple quick notes. Basically, the judge that assigned that 6-game suspension said that the NFL has basically set this up by not having clear guidelines of what the guys will, what they're expected to be punished based on their behavior, essentially. So she said, based on precedents, 6 games is probably in line, but she said, because there's no guidelines that say, if you do this, you're going to get this. If you do this, you're going to get this. That's going against the NFL in a case like this. So she actually encouraged them to challenge this, essentially, and said, I feel like he deserves more than 6, but the precedence that you have set is 6 games, so that's what I'm giving him, but I'm leaving it in your hands. If you guys want to appeal this, then I encourage you to do so. And that's why...
Which is fair.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you look at their past handouts of suspensions, I mean, I think Big Ben got 6, right? or was it less?
It was less. I think he had. Well,
he might even had 2. I don't remember. But essentially, I don't want to compare the situations. Obviously, neither had convictions of any type. You had like the Ray Rice one where I can't remember how many games he missed, but he got blackballed from the league after that. You had Joe Mixon miss a couple games for domestic assault or some. I can't even remember what his was, kicking someone when they were down on the ground. I don't even remember. But there's been so many cases where it hasn't been handled correctly, but that's the precedence you set. So that's why it makes sense that they handed out what they handed out. And yeah, they're appealing now. And I feel like her guidance was, going forward, you guys need to have some sort of thing set in stone where this is going to be the penalty for that. And then there's no questions on if you went too loose, if you went too heavy, whatever. So that's my only real thoughts on that. And I really am getting sick of even talking about it. I feel like they just need to get it figured out and go from there. But the 1 year is only going to cost. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, to your point, originally he also had a 6-game suspension, and Roger knocked it down to 4.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. I couldn't remember if he knocked it down to 2 or to 4, but yeah. So I mean, there's the precedent right there, and then I think going forward they need to have that set in stone. And him, the way that he's getting paid out this season, even if he misses a whole season, he misses out on $1 million in salary. And quite honestly, if he misses a whole season, it actually helps the Browns with their cap space next season because it gets prorated. So, I mean, they essentially did this contract expecting him to miss a whole season. And I know they say otherwise, we did this for cap purposes on giving him the guaranteed money up front in the signing bonus and doing the $1 million prorated for salary. But I think it was 100% designed to shield him from essentially having any consequences of his actions. So that's frustrating for me. I'm really pissed off at the Browns for doing that. If that was their intention, because everyone says, well, he missed a whole year last year. No, he sat out last year and he got paid the full amount that he was due. So that shouldn't even be factored in at all. So
no.
Don't get me started on that. I'll be done there. But and then we had the Raiders and the Jaguars. They started the NFL season, or NFL preseason, I should say. Tonight, game was delayed due to weather. I honestly haven't watched a single snap. I did see the starting lineups on Twitter and all that. So I did see that outside of Colton Miller, I think our offensive line that started tonight will probably be the offensive line that will start the season, barring any injuries. The thing that was really interesting to me is Josh Jacobs was the starting running back in the Hall of Fame game, which typically you don't see starters. So that's something to keep an eye on. I don't know what that means for Josh Jacobs. They obviously didn't pick up his 5th-year option, so he knows he's probably on his way out. But, I mean, giving him snaps in a meaningless game 1 of the preseason, that's a little curious to me.
Just a note, though. I mean, for what it's worth, being a preseason game, you are winning like 27-3 in the 4th quarter. So
tearing up them Jaguars. Yeah,
good job. I always love the Hall of Fame game. One of these years I would really like to go attend one. Obviously, I'd like it to be when the Steelers play in one, which they did just a few years ago. But I think it'd be really fun to go catch that. Obviously, go to Canton, go through the Hall of Fame, stuff like that. But so I always pay attention to it. I was looking forward to it, and like you, unfortunately, I didn't get to watch any of it. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Well,
it's good
and
to
I
put
guess
up points.
On that note, I guess I should say that I'm excited to see Cliff Branch finally get in. If you talk to anyone from that era, including the guys that are in the Hall of Fame from your team, they will say that he's one guy that, I mean, you always had to account for, no matter where he was on the field. think of him as, the modern day Tyreek Hill, where you had to have two guys on him essentially just to hope to contain him. So I know he didn't have the career numbers that most of the NFL wide receivers had. But just based on that being a fear, or the most feared person on the football field at any time, I think that is probably one of the definitions I would use to assign Hall of Fame credentials. So happy for him. Obviously, this is after he has passed, so his family will get to enjoy that without him, and that's frustrating for me. But they do this all the time, so.
Yeah, happens more times than not.
Then you want to get into the Dolphin stuff. I'll let you talk on Stephen Ross, since you have a little bit more of a background than I do on him.
Yeah. So, I mean, just to the point, they did a probe, an investigation. Basically the backstory is that they potentially had tampered with Tom Brady and also Sean Payton while they were under contract, which obviously is against league rules. And then they were also investigated for tanking.
Yep.
And basically what they came to find out was that, yes, there was some tampering with Tom Brady, actually on more than one occasion, and also Sean Payton. As far as the tanking, they were able to state that basically he did say those things. He claims to be joking. I think it's we'll get to that, I guess. But to start off with,
they were a billionaire.
Oh,
that's all I could say.
I will get more into the Flores side of things here in a minute, but the team was docked a 2023 first round pick and a 2024 third round pick. Ross was fined $1.5 million, which is literally nothing for that man.
Yeah.
And the GM was fined $500K, which again, it doesn't touch, I'm sure, his yearly earnings. But they said that they didn't find significant evidence about the tanking. But he did. This is what kills me. But he did say that he would pay him $100,000 for every game that he lost. Again, and he literally made the comment that draft position is more important than wins and losses. So these words were stated by.
They literally substantiated everything that Flores said in his lawsuit. The whole he didn't want to talk to Tom Brady because it was against league rules, and so he left. But didn't stop Stephen Ross from doing it.
This is what kills me. It's a win for Flores because basically it's validating everything that he said, everything that he was claiming had been said to him. But it's not really a win because
they
that
minimized.
Was the side. Yes, this is the side of the probe that I cared more about. It's just like the Snyder case, the Watson case. Yes, there's these rule parts that are important, but the aspect of it that's truly important always seems to be downplayed.
Yep.
And that's what drives me nuts. But I was happy for Flores, for him to get the validation that, yes, this did happen. And some backstory on Stephen Ross is he's been like this the entire time he's owned the Dolphins. He's a horrible owner. He's the kind of person that will keep your program, your franchise just in squalor. He just is horrible at what he does. So I don't know. I mean, I'm glad that they were able to find something on him, but the first round pick, they never pick good in the first round anyways. Third round pick, who cares? 1.5 million, not even a thing for Stephen Ross. So I'm happy that they found the right outcome, I guess, that there was some tampering, but I'm a little bit let down by what the actual punishment, if you want to call it that, was. And also Stephen Ross was suspended. I guess I don't know if I said that, but even that though, like, who cares?
Yeah, I mean, they said he can't come to any of the NFL owners meetings between now and 2023. So essentially 4 more months, he can't come to anything.
That's what I mean. It's just
slap on the wrist. I mean, it's super frustrating because everything that Brian Flores said happened. They acknowledged that it happened, but he's just joking about that, even though he told me that he wants us to improve our position in the draft and not prioritize winning.
Here's the thing that kills me, though, and I love that Sean Payton's name is even involved in this, because if you want to go back to Bountygate, they held things like this against coaches.
Yep.
Whether I mean, the whole joking thing had been brought up, blah, blah, blah. Those statements, they said no matter what it was stated at that time. And in their position, due to NFL rules, they're not allowed to even make those jokes. And so in that Sean Payton situation, that didn't fly. But now in this situation, this joking owner, come on. I mean, I don't know. I'll leave it at that. Stupid. I'm just obviously disappointed with it.
Can you imagine the landscape shift that had this all been allowed to happen? Because this was prior to Tua. So this was prior to Tom Brady signing with the Bucs. But then again, when he was on the Bucs, and this was the whole retirement thing, there were talks that he was going to retire and join the Miami front office and essentially run the team. And that's when he tagged in with Sean Payton, and Sean Payton was supposed to join him. Well, then Brian Flores does the whole allegations, and they have to stop it all in place. Tom Brady decides to unretire. Josh McCown probably would have been named the coach of the Houston Texans, but instead they go with Lovie Smith, saying that he was the best man for the job.
Yep.
It
changed a lot. It had a big impact.
This whole
and
situation,
in the future, there's more to come.
Yeah, there's some webs to be strung there, because I think there's a lot more connected here than what everyone knows behind the scenes. So,
well, and that's the frustrating thing is there's a lot that we'll never know is connected, because
I bet it'll come out because of the dots that have already been connected. And
I guess my point is like the Lovie Smith situation. I mean, they're never going to come right out and say this is why we hired Lovie Smith,
right?
But they don't have to. There's going to be a lot of moves moving forward. They're going to be like, is this so that you're compliant?
I am
this,
fully,
you know what I mean?
Believing that had Brian Flores not come out with those allegations when he did, Josh McCown would be the coach of the Houston Texans right now. And Lovie Smith probably wouldn't have a job at all.
Maybe not.
Because they would have cleaned house and let him bring in his own guys. Yep. So, no, I'm glad that Brian Flores did it.
The other side of it, too, I mean, imagine those two involved in that front office. That changes the landscape of that team pretty drastically, because they've never really had good football minds in that office, not within the last, say, 15 years. So that could be interesting. It could have been interesting.
Well, I mean, not to say Brady would be great at running a football team, because
more so Sean Payton for me, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
Well, yeah, but you've seen John Elway, how he ran the Broncos, and outside of being able to recruit Peyton Manning, it's been awful. I mean, he hasn't drafted well. He hasn't done well with free agents outside of Peyton Manning. So I think, saying it would be knocking it out of the park. I think Sean Payton's one of the best coaches in the NFL, so getting him would have been a great snag. But no, it's just crazy how much that one thing shifted the landscape. And even for Bruce Arians, I mean, it essentially got him pushed up to the front office from coaching. So it's all connected, and it's all crazy that it all happened like that. But we'll move on from that. And just one note from the Kyler Murray contract. We've been joking about it on and off, just because he had the individual study note in his contract, and after the blowback that it got, the Arizona Cardinals went ahead and removed that clause from his contract. So he's going to get away with playing his video games, and he gets to stay up past 9:30 on school nights, and he's back to being who he is. So, and one interesting note, I don't know if you saw this today. Cliff Kingsbury basically said that he would be calling in plays and Kyler Murray would be shaking his head. And he said he just wants Kyler to know how hard it is to call an NFL football game. So it seems like even though they have mended fences, they really haven't. So
I'm not going to comment on Kyler Murray anymore because everyone knows my opinion. But I'm going to say this. I just want to paint this picture.
I ain't going to comment, but I'm going to comment.
So he is a professional quarterback.
Yep.
Who had off-season issues, contracts. Who knew? We didn't know where he was going to play. All right, so he finally gets his contract. And his NFL team had to make sure that he had 4 hours of film study. This is a professional quarterback. So they had to make sure he had 4 hours of film study, which obviously means this was an issue in the past. You don't just add this out of thin air. Okay, so now said quarterback who is showing a certain level of maturity by throwing a temper tantrum on how social media made him look due to this clause and complained enough that the team then removed the clause.
Yeah. And
all I'm going to say is teams wonder why this terrible behavior is rewarded and these kids don't know how to act. And I'll leave it at that. I just can't anymore. This Kyler Murray saga is a joke.
Yeah. It is. It really is. But, I mean, I guess, I don't know. We'll just leave it at that. I'm just glad he's playing for the Cardinals and not for my A's. How's that?
I know. You dodged a bullet, maybe.
Well, kind of. I mean, we still got punished for picking him, but it is what it is.
Well,
so.
Yeah, that's fair.
Moving on to your Steelers. I saw they extended Deontay Johnson. Why don't you go in on that?
I'm pretty pumped about this, actually, and this says a lot about Deontay Johnson, too. So basically, they extended him. It turns into basically a 3-year contract, 2-year extension. But it's worth $36 million, $27 million guaranteed. So homeboy's getting paid, which I love. He's been our top contributor at the wideout position, going on a couple seasons now. I'm looking at him to lead that core, but I know from his camp, he wanted to feel valued. And I think because of like AB and things like that, the Steelers and their ability to draft wide receivers, they've always been pretty good at it. I feel like they were in that position of they didn't want to commit long term. So I think this is a win-win for both sides. For Deontay Johnson, it gets him, 2 extra years of safety, basically. It gives him some guaranteed money. It also leaves, the door open for us to extend him again, keep him in the future if things are going well. But then again, the landscape of the NFL is crazy. So with this contract, it also gives him the opportunity, as a player, if this isn't his forever home, then he will be in his, young enough that he can search for that big contract, if need be down the road. At the end of the day, I'm just super pumped. I think it's a feel-good thing for him. I think he's going to come in comfortable, and we're going to need him because our quarterback situation obviously is what it is.
Fantastic.
So I'm happy for him. Yes, sir. I was pumped. And I guess one little thing about that quarterback situation, I don't think anything's changed. I still think Mitch is the guy. But Kenny Pickett is coming along a little bit at a time, which because of what we're doing at the quarterback position, they've made it very clear what they want to do. This is exactly what I want to see. I knew he wasn't going to come in and just wow everybody day one. That's not how this works. But he's moving up as far as, he's ran second team reps and first team reps a little bit. So he's just coming along. So we'll see where he's at in the future. I still think the Trubisky show moves on as expected.
Yeah. And I think unless Trubisky is really struggling, I don't even think we'll see Kenny Pickett this year. But obviously if he starts to wow people at practice and all that, we've seen it before where the so-called designated starter ends up getting unseated by a rookie quarterback. So
that's true. But to your point, ideally, that's from the fandom, that's whether I'm sure people want him to start day one already, but
Yep.
I think that is the ideal situation is Mitch, puts together a good season, be it a even 500 season, a 9-8 season. I'll take it. Puts together a decent season. Maybe we're in playoff contention. And then by next off season, Kenny's made the jump. And now you have Mitch on the tail end of that contract as a mentor, stepping in, doing his thing, and then he can pursue, his future down the road. Ideally, that's how that works out.
Yep.
We'll see what happens.
Well, and I've said this 100 times. I don't think Mitch ever got a real fair shake in Chicago and ended up taking him in the playoffs. So wouldn't be surprised to see him, really putting up great numbers there in Pittsburgh and surprising some people. So maybe Kenny Pickett doesn't even get a chance because Mitch just balls out for the rest of his career in Pittsburgh. Who knows? But one other note I just wanted to mention on NFL, and that is that Matt Stafford is dealing with abnormal elbow pain, and he's been dealing with this off and on throughout the last couple years of his career. But apparently it's really bugging him right now, and it's something that LA is keeping a close eye on. So I don't know if this is actually something to watch or if they're kind of trying to downplay it. I really don't know. Right now, it is something just of note that I wanted to put in there just because it sounds like it could be serious and he's essentially going to have to deal with it pain level wise or have to get it taken care of. So interested to see what happens there. And obviously they're the reigning Super Bowl champions. So, well,
and I laughed at myself when I first heard about this and seen it. The first thing I thought of was, internal dark humor, a little bit of a joke that it's because of that extra weight he's got on that ring finger on that side. But this actually really sweet. Bums. I know. It actually really bums me out. Anybody who's watched and heard us talk, I'm a huge Stafford fan. I absolutely love the dude. All the way back to him, dislocating his shoulder and going back in to finish that game. Like that set the tone for me as far as, my respect level for this dude. It's frustrating because I feel like he could still build on what he did last year. So I hope this doesn't derail anything for him. Because they have something pretty special going on with the Rams right now. They need him behind center. So hopefully this does not derail his offseason too horribly bad. But like you said, it sounds like it's not, just a little bit of pain he's had in previous seasons. So I don't know. Hopefully it's something they can get taken care of quickly.
Yeah. And then you've got some
just a couple tidbits. Just throwing a date out there, September 24th, hockey NHL preseason starts. So it's back to my love. I can't wait. Get back to some NHL hockey again. And
it's crazy.
Lastly, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's crazy how fast that this summer has gone. I mean, I know it's been because I've been literally working on my backyard every day after work and every day on the weekend. So it feels like it's just been one endless thing. But man, it's already like football was tonight, first preseason game. Hockey's ramping up. Like, what happened to summer?
And I got to say, and you're right. I mean, it goes fast, but I do have to say that, we've been doing the pod, a year now.
Oh, man.
Including the old one.
Yep.
Which I guess we didn't even talk about that, but it's been fun doing this pod. And I mean, we both already paid a lot of attention to sports, but it's forced me to pay a little more attention. And it's crazy how much of the year, I guess how much of my time is based on sports and how fast it turns around. I feel like I was talking about playoff hockey.
Yes.
And I was talking about it not that long ago, and it turns around very quickly, especially with these sports, 82 game seasons or, 160 games, MLB. It's funny how quick everything turns around, but I'm just excited for it to be back.
Yeah.
And then lastly, this is a weird one for me because I've I played it when I was younger, but I've never really been into soccer. But Pittsburgh has a team in the USL Championship League, Pittsburgh Riverhounds. So I've even been watching them on ESPN because they have them on Plus now. I don't know. It's been different. I've actually found myself sort of getting into it, which is weird.
You can count me out on that.
I know it's different, but they're 12-4-6. They were having a little bit of a rough stretch, but then they turned around and didn't lose a single game in July. Only one draw and won the rest, and they're fourth in the East Division, so they should have a shot at going for the championship. It's definitely the last tier on my sport fandom, but mostly it's just if there's not a baseball game on, I put that on if it happens to be on. But,
I was gonna say I can get into World Cup because it's like, best of the best, and I do enjoy seeing that. But watching, what is it? FIFA? No, not FIFA. What's the MLS? Right?
I don't know. I'm still learning all that stuff.
Yeah,
like I said, soccer was not my game.
Major League Soccer.
Honestly, the only thing that it's because across the river they have their their soccer field.
Yeah,
and you can see it from a lot of different points in the city, and so you kept seeing it, kept checking it out. So I was like, whatever, I'll give it a shot. Supporting Pittsburgh, and little by little, I've just gotten to where I've started watching it. I'll never be as into it as I am any of these other things.
Yeah,
but whatever.
I can safely say the only soccer games I'll be watching are World Cup or games that my sons are playing in. And even that, it's like, okay, all right, let's call this thing. I think we've been playing long enough. But
yeah, it's.
No, I drive past. I drive past that Salt Lake Stadium all the time, and I'll just say it doesn't inspire me to go watch a soccer game. So.
Oh. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Give me a year of this, and we'll see if I stuck it out or not.
Yeah, I'm guessing you won't, but that's just guessing. No, I think that's all I had. I did want to say, I meant to mention at the top, just excited that we've been doing this for a year. It feels like looking back on all the episodes that we've done, I'm so proud of what we've done so far. And, I've got to do a couple with Taryn. Obviously, he's no longer with us. So having those memories are great. Having, with Trent, with Logan, and any others, Tyler Foster, he's come on a couple times. The Travis Blackley one, that was a huge highlight for me because I was a fan of his. But no, it's been great. And we hope you guys have enjoyed our path thus far, and hope you guys will continue along with us. It's just been great. So thank you guys for tuning in once again. And Kyle, any closing notes?
Just to piggyback off what you've said, really, I want to thank you for, across the pond with Bill and John having me on, just to talk, and what a guest appearance that turned into the guy that would never leave. And, obviously new branding, and a year later, here we are. But I don't know, man, this has been such a fun time. I talk like it's ending. I've just had a blast doing this. I'm looking forward to everything else that we're doing, but I don't know, a couple times a month I get to sit and bullshit sports with, a buddy. I'll take it. It just happens to be on camera, and some people out there get to enjoy it too. So I'm having a blast, and I just really appreciate you, opening that door. So
yeah, no, it's been great. And obviously, as we keep ramping these things up, eventually we'd like to do some live ones in person.
Yeah.
Maybe
absolutely
some events, things like that. So like I said, I hope you guys will stick with us and follow us along this path, and hope we can just keep having fun with it and expanding as we can. So thanks for tuning in. This has been the episode, and we will catch you on the next one.